Hi, this is Rory Evanson Fair, and this is the audio commentary for Boat Madness. I am the director slash creator, writer, editor, whatever. Pretty much the whole project I made by myself. The other actors helped film the scenes that they're in, but for the most part, I made it all, whatever. I would simply just, set up a scene like this, and so I'd film a scene, I'd come up with an idea for a scene, I'd film it, and then I'd edit it on my own, add in the sound, music, and whatever. Originally it was broken up into parts because it was kind of going to be a different thing, but I tried to make a continuous storyline and edit it together to be nice and stuff. So this is the scene, the intro scene. There's not really a big sort of build-up. It just all of a sudden happens, and originally, there was more talk and more chatter, and it was sort of more drawn out, but when I was making the movie, I sort of had to cut it down a lot to make it, the pace more, because it would get very slow at parts, especially this first part. I mean, the dialogue is good. It's all these shots and all these scenes and everything. The way I would do it is I'd set up a camera angle, and just film just me as the doctor from a couple of different shots, and I would just sort of improvise a whole lot of different dialogue. Like this orange juice line, I remember I improvised, I said it, do you drink a lot of orange juice as the doctor? And then I would have to remember that I came up with that line and try to come up with something opposite for Willie to say, or for David to say. So, it's all improvised, none of it's written down. It's mostly just trying to work with it, but there's a lot of footage, that you have to cut, because when you're improvising, you're just going to come up with a lot of stuff that's just not funny or doesn't work or whatever. So, yeah, in that way, the whole plot of the movie, and really the way the whole movie works forward, is a lot more sort of, it's open and willing to change, because there's never a really strict idea of what's going on. Most of the scenes are I'm at A, I want to get to B. So, it'll be, all right, David Rhodes needs to be diagnosed with boat madness, and he needs to go off and go towards the ocean. And then however it would happen in between would just sort of come and go and change depending on what we could come up with, at the moment. So a lot of it is it's improvising dialogue, but it's also improvising scenes, it's improvising sort of ideas and all sorts of stuff. So it's hard to do that because you don't always have an idea of what you're doing, but I think it works well because it allows you to sort of, when something just sort of comes up or you think is funny or something that just is on the spur of the moment that seems to work, you can go with it much easier than if you have a very strict thing and then you sort of have to follow. But if you have a very strict thing, you can sort of build the themes and ideas and stuff in closer. Now we're starting to get into the freak out point, and originally there was just layered sort of dialogue and visuals, layered video clips, but I wanted to make it a little bit more intense of him going out. It's still probably not as intense as I would have liked it, but yeah. So, so far he's been diagnosed with boat madness by Dr. Willie, and people don't seem to know what the deal is with Dr. Willie. Originally, I think I cut all the lines that mention this, but originally Dr. Willie was supposed to be David Rhodes' cousin, and they're family, and he's supposed to be a failing doctor, which is why, he's not supposed to be a very good doctor also, which is why, later on when he gets abducted and stuff, just talking about how he's in debt, he's supposed to be sort of not like a failure of a doctor, but He's just not supposed to be a good one. And I put the dialogue here like more clear. Before it was like layered, but I tried to make it more clear, but people still get confused about with the dialogue. They still, because it's hard because a lot of improvised dialogue, this dialogue is very important to the story right here, because this is sort of outlining what David Rhodes is going to happen, and it's saying with the boat madness what you're supposed to expect, but people don't realize that. People don't realize that, like, in this moment, he's explaining that David Rhodes is going to drown himself with boat madness, and that's how boat madness kills him. And so, without that sort of thing, see, because this is kind of, it's hard when it's not that clear, but boat madness is supposed to make you go crazy. It's called boat madness because you get it from being on a boat. It's to make you go crazy, and then you're supposed to go towards the ocean, and you're attracted to water. You always want to be near water. It was supposed to be the opposite of being like hydrophobic. Like, I think rabies is hydrophobia as well. So it's supposed to be like hydrophilia, like you were attracted to water instead of not. Like that scene right there, that was all like, no one would have ever written that down, just go to a payphone and say it, but I think it was funny and worked. You can see the shadow of the tripod on my back there. Yeah. So it's very important, but a lot of people miss it. So that's how boat madness works. And without that, the rest of the movie doesn't really make sense. And so this is why David now, he goes and he lives near the dock. And it's kind of hard to even do audio commentary because I cut it so fast that it's like jumping from place to place. And so this was just a dock that was near my, like one of the local beaches that I went to. And this is, right now it's, when I was filming this, I think it was the middle of February. So this place is deserted. I filmed all of this out in the Hamptons of Long Island, the eastern end of Long Island. So during the winter, there's not a lot of people around. But during the summer, there's a ton of people around. So filming in the winter is great. Except it's cold. And there's not a lot of, like, you have less hours of light, so that's annoying, but there's so much more places that you can go and do. So this is in the winter, and I was obviously freezing my ass off at this point. So it's also, like, at this point, I sort of was trying to sort of mess around with the idea of constantly acknowledging the camera and then not acknowledging the camera. And this is supposed to be sort of like he's documenting his descent into boat madness. And so, like this is like some sort of little mock-you drama thing. I don't know, that he's making himself because, he's trying to document his boat madness. And there's Cosmo, my old dog. He really didn't like when I did this. He looks good on camera. It's good. So a lot of times, like I would have to take the dog for a walk, so I would just take the dog out and we just film and stuff. And this right here is the only boat I think in the whole movie, which I thought was funny that the only boat is just this little throwaway dinghy boat, but it's still good. I love the way the dog looks at the boat. That was perfect. This transition right here, not as good as I would have liked it. Although the craziness ramps up right here. This was back when, there's a deleted scene that went in between where I was going to originally have it so boat madness was going to like go forward and backward in time, and he's going to like lose track of time, and it was supposed to be much more different. But I decided to just go away from that because it wasn't that interesting or good, and it was hard to make, and it just would be even more confusing. So, yeah. So this was just this random structure I found out on the beach, and it was a couple miles from any parking lot, so not a lot of people around. And so I just like to walk my dog here, so, I saw it and I thought I'd use it. And those were just stuff I found on the beach. And Akon's just a good rapper. And my arch nemesis here, you can see the wind is very big problem when I film because I don't have like a good microphone, so it picks up a lot of wind. It's a real pain in the ass, but you know, not much I can do about it really. I guess I could get a microphone, but you know, it's very low budget. This is just basically whatever money, you know, the camera, and then I edit it on my own computer, you know, and I make the music on my own computer. I do all of that sort of stuff. That's a line from the Steven Seagal movie, Blood Bank. You see that there's no one filming. You can see the reflection of the sunglasses. And again, originally this was not supposed to happen, but since I was filming in February, I believe, just a day after I filmed, massive snowstorm hit. So I thought I've got to go back out there and try to hit it up, try to find it, you know, set up the camera in the same spot and do it. It was a pain in the ass because it was like miles away during a snowstorm that I had to walk. And I had to bring my dog too, you know. The dog likes to go on the walks and stuff, but I think he was getting a little cold. You know, he likes it, but it was not exactly the greatest time to bring your dog. And I almost crashed my car because it was not very hospitable. Also, this is when I start to do a lot of these sort of like bizarre little cheesy effects that I don't know, some people don't like them, but I think they're funny. I also start to crank up the dialogue. My character's David Rhodes. He's starting to really succumb to the boat madness and just sort of go even more crazy. And this Lord of the Beast thing, that's from a lot of this movie is supposed to be sort of Don Quixote-esque, you know, because I was reading Don Quixote at the time, and there's a part in it where he like challenges a lion to a fight, and he changes his name from like the Knight of La Mancha or something to something of the Beast. So I thought that was good, and I like to have the Beast. And so, you know, the character's going off to find something to attack and to get honor, and like, you know, Don Quixote attacking the windmill, I guess. But this is also like I was doing a little bit like a Star Wars kid type thing. And I don't know, I like the dialogue sort of stuff, the sort of freeform craziness that, you know, I just like it. It's easy to do, and it's fun and interesting. You can make something sort of creative and different. And once again, this is... if you go on YouTube, you can see the longer clip where I drive around, but I had a radio song playing of a Taylor Swift song, so I can't really use it because I don't have the rights to Taylor Swift, and I don't really want to... whatever. I guess I could, but not going to be bothered. This is just a nice little like valley that used to be near where I lived. I always used to go out there, and there'd be a lot of deer, and I always thought it was just very beautiful. So, once again, snowstorm, get up and out, and go. In this shot, this is one of the shots, I think I do this quite a lot, where I just slowly change the colors. So I'm slowly raising the blue levels and messing with like the balance and stuff. So you don't really notice it, but over time, if you're watching, you can see like the skin, it changes colors, everything changes colors, and it's one of these things where you don't realize it, but then, you know, by the time you do realize it, you're like, whoa, it's changed quite a bit, what has happened? And that's my mom. I told her to say it like that, and she, you know, really, really didn't want to say it like that, but I do, and I still make fun of her for the delivery of that line, which is great. And this is just me freaking out. David, he's going more and more into boat madness, and just really going nuts. I like this line. It's like, I guess, a joke on the line from The Grapes of Wrath, where the guy gives a speech about where he's, he'll be wherever there's any suffering and stuff. But yeah, and I like how I just hit this tree there. Boom, done. Move on. This is my old house. This is the same house as the first opening scene, but I just tried to avoid it. And this is just my cat, but since he's Lord of the Beasts, he's got to like mess with a lot of animals and just touch that cat. This is my mom. I slap her, throw her on the bed. If you look at the computer in the shot, not this one, up there, right? You can start to see it there. There's the background on the computer is a picture of Tupac with a bunch of suds. There, you can see it very well in the bottom corner. And that's been on her computer since I put it there for years and years and years. She still doesn't know how to fix it, but it's a good shot. And this is the first time I used an explosion. Boom. That was kind of a big leap for me, actually, because that was the first time I had to use After Effects, and I had to figure out how to do the explosion and look at tutorials and stuff. So that was a big deal at the time for me because I'd never used it, and I didn't shave for this one, this scene right here, and I regret it because I look terrible. I don't look good at all, but it's just dreadful looking. It's not a big deal though. It's funny regardless. So he went on a quest. He got away from water. This is filmed at Montauk. You see the sign Montauk. This is at the train station. This was actually the only thing filmed out of sequence. Everything else is filmed sequentially, but this was filmed like a week after the next scene. And you can tell because in the previous scene there was a big snowstorm. In this scene there's no snow on the ground at all. And in the next scene there's patches of snow. And this was one of the things I was trying to make it work, but it just didn't really work. No one really notices because there's so much you lose. Like, you can't really pay attention to those minor details. Like, there's so much stuff going on that's purposefully doesn't make sense and is off, that for someone to try to like nitpick stuff like that is kind of ridiculous. There's Cosmo in the vest. Also, this is the part of the movie where though the clothes always subtly change, they're never like completely consistent. This is the part where I try to make it a little bit more consistent. Not really. I mean, I just try to make it seem like he's going on a quest and he's like collecting different clothing. So he takes this clothing from Cosmo, and it was actually raining, and the effects you can see some of the like artifacting from the rain. This was another miserable day when I went to film this. My car actually ended up dying, and I got stranded out of Montauk with the dog for hours. And this is when I used to. This shot right here is I'm fighting Cosmo. And he did not want to fight me. Usually, like, I would be able to rile him up, and we would have some fun and fight. But he just was not into it that day. He was getting old around this time, so maybe that was just like, yeah. So maybe he was just not into it. But so he's gotten boat madness. He went and lived with the ocean. He tried to go on a quest. He was like filled with some sort of Holy Spirit, like sort of trying to go off and do something like the Knights of Old. That's right, he's Lord of the Beasts and stuff. And obviously he's just fought a beast right there. And so now he collects some loot, some fat loot. He's got some good stuff, a lot of magic items. And he's trying to get back to water, and the water's right there. And there it is. This is a nice little pier out in Montauk. It's right near a park. And you can see the disgusting facial hair. And there I go. I run off. I do a lot of rock throwing. I don't know why, but just works. I like this effect too. The some sort of remove color, maximum of color or something, doing stuff like that. So now I go out to the pier, and obviously a pier is like, and this is, what was that? So this is a completely pointless shot right here. Cosmo, the dog, he was constantly getting into the frame, so I constantly had to zoom, and you can see his snout for a little bit there. I was trying to avoid it so you couldn't see him that closely and stuff, so yeah, he would constantly be getting into the shot because, obviously he's just a dog, and he doesn't, he's not trained, he's not even that well behaved, or he wasn't, so so he was always getting in the shot and trying to be right next to me, and and here he comes. He knocks me out, and that shot is slowed down. This is a weird transition to a completely different scene. There, see how I'm talking about before? There was no snow. Now there's a little bit of patches of snow again, because this was filmed out of sequence, which, whatever, it doesn't really make a big deal. Also, the clothing is slightly different. You see I have the vest and the headband, but I lose the long sleeve t-shirt. Well, I don't really care. It's fine. Actually, Marcus, this was one of the times Marcus came out, but he wasn't actually in any of the shots. So you can see telephone poles in the background, even though, at this point, he's supposed to be sort of far away from, civilization. All of these shots, I'm always trying to make them seem removed and far away and distant. But it's always if you turn 20 feet away, there'll be a house right there, So I like that, acknowledge the camera. So it's always trying to get around that stuff, but you can always see. In the bottom, he's spelling out Dave Eat. He's, it's just whatever it is. See, you can see houses a little bit. I was constantly trying to avoid that, houses sort of, they're fine, but they, my guy moves a little bit robotic here for some reason. They're fine, but they're just really not that interesting, and it's more interesting if he's sort of far removed, but it's also whenever, especially in now, when he's sort of full boat madness crazy mode, whatever, doesn't really make that much sense, you can always attribute it to boat madness, that's just him going crazy. And yeah, so right here we find a messing with the hue a lot. I'm always doing that. Messing with hue and saturation are easy, sort of subtle ways of, not so subtle in here, but I was gonna try to really cry here, but it's difficult for me to cry. I'm not that good of an actor, which is why, there's a couple of serious parts of the movie, but even the serious parts aren't that super serious. They're sort of I knew that I couldn't do the serious parts that, I couldn't give them what they needed to work, so I avoided it, I know sort of the limitations that I have, so I avoid what I can. And here's again another shot of train tracks, and there's a lot of trains. There's over and over again, trains come into play. In the beginning, there's train tracks there. There's train tracks after David Rhodes fights the undercover lifeguard. There's trains when Willie's searching for pure water. There's just a lot of like repetition of trains just because, they're interesting looking. They sort of, there's sort of an antiquated, weird way of travel. At least, I mean, the trains out on Long Island just aren't that good. There's something interesting about them in and of themselves. This was a sign that just, I knew I wanted to fight the car, but this sign was there, so it was good anyway, like it fit well. And Marcus, for some reason, zooms right in on that red thing, which was brilliant. And then,
is she not the worst beast of all?
Yeah, that line.
She's the one who bleeds incessantly. It'll never stop. Get it out of your house, man.
Kind of out of place, but I didn't really want to keep it at first, but something at the end of the day, I just decided, all right, I'll keep it. What's the big deal? And now it's David Rhodes fighting the car, which is obviously like, you don't need a big, you don't need, any to be super smart to see like it's, a demon or whatever, or like it represents something or something, But it's like Don Quixote-esque very much, especially, he's wearing some sort of my graduation gown from college. I paid for it, so I wanted to at least use it for something else as well. And then David Rhodes starts to chase the car, which is very confusing. But, it works. And here the car is supposed to give an impassionate speech defending himself.
By now have realized that you cannot see. As we move through life, our actions are guided by the fates. An unseen hand sways us through the tides.
It's,
man may be wrong,
he's supposed to be sort of fighting a car like Don Quixote fought the windmills and stuff, but it's also just supposed to be like an arbitrary battle, and it was an excuse for me to, do all that stuff with the car, which some of the stuff with the car was very dangerous just because, we have one person filming while driving. I'm jumping around on the roof. There's the tripod bag on the ground right there. So we didn't really have any safety things. It's just, like, I'm jumping around, doing sorts of stuff that if Marcus was driving while filming it, and if I tripped or fell somewhere weird, I could have gotten run over easily. But at the end of the day, obviously I didn't, so, whatever, it can't be that big of a deal. And we're trying to avoid seeing Marcus driving the car here, which is not the easiest thing in the world. There's Marcus's car, which we use for this shot. And this shot. So now David's, stuck inside the car. He's been stopped once again from going swimming, and the car right here, it's supposed to be like the car is just taunting him by doing donuts while he's stuck in the trunk. And it's supposed to be you can't see the driver because I'm ducking down, but you probably still can see the driver. And another fade out and fade up, which I do a lot because, I don't know, I guess it's just easy transition. Especially because, like, sometimes there'll be months between shots. Like, I think there was, 3 months from the last shot to this shot. Actually, it's probably only, 2 months. And that's why, as we go on, you can see that my hair gets longer and longer. Also, I was chewing gum in this scene, which you can see, which is, it's like, I have gum, don't have gum, have gum, don't have gum. I was actually in my trunk, and he was driving in circles when we filmed this. And it's kind of terrifying, I just turned the light on the camera on and filmed it. There's Marcus. And it's kind of funny that he has this smug look, and he's dressed in this sort of suit jacket. And driving around in circles. This is actually one of the whole idea for this scene. I really wanted to film something where I just burst through the back of a car, which you can't even actually do because I tried to do it. There's a bunch of releases you have to hit, and one of the times when I did it, you see I have to cut in between two shots because the thing slapped back, and I got stuck and I couldn't get out. But here we go. This, I think, is one of like the most sort of, when I come out, I'm really, really crazy. You see, watch, boom, the thing on the left snaps back, and I can't get it open again. I have to reach out and get it. So I have to cut in between the two shots. There's Marcus. And so the character doesn't know that he's had this guy in his trunk. My character comes out and just goes mental and just goes absolutely crazy. But, like always, I try to have David Rhodes is sort of like, every time he sort of like breaks forward and faces a guy, every time he does, he sort of like is still like friendly and affable to them. You know, he doesn't really blame them, he's just going on an adventure. And Marcus's character here is supposed to have not known that he was in your trunk. I mean, how would you not, especially after the preceding scene where the car went out and ate him, to not know that this crazy guy was in your trunk seems a little bit, you know, odd, but that's supposed to be like part of the thing that makes it interesting, you know. And obviously all of this is improvised dialogue, just we would just drive around, just put the camera on and just go nuts. So, but this is like the first time that there's really a significant other character, that for me to interact with. So, this sort of becomes the standard, I guess, from now on. It's like, I meet someone, I have a little bit of a dialogue with them, and then generally we fight or something happens. I mean, generally there's a lot of fights, and Marcus and me went to high school together. Same with Ryan Duff. Well, most of the characters. But him and me and Ryan Duff plays the guy, the Swamp King, the guy with the alligator on his chest. In this shot, I actually did just jump on the roof and surprise him. He wasn't expecting it, so I'm used to that, though. We all, studied martial arts together, so, that was like something we had in common. Also, since this was filmed like over years, you can see that, as my hair gets longer and longer, I also, get progressively bigger, bigger muscles and stuff. And I actually did hit the camera with that frisbee there. It's not the greatest. All those frisbees were frisbees from college, and just had them. I kept them. I would always take those frisbees. Marcus survives. The car is gone. And we move on. This is one of the worst transitions of the whole movie. Or did I cut it? I think I cut it, actually. Yeah, there used to be a really bad transition there where it just, a lot of times would be rushed and we won't think things through very well, especially like we wanted to get to the fight and it was cold. It was I think it was like, May or something, but it was windy and cold. So, I'll rush and we'll come up with these transitions that just aren't very good, like that last one, which I cut most of it. But, they don't really quite work, and it'll be really, an exercise as an editor a lot of times to find a way to make it work. A lot of these things, if I was a better director or I set it up better, it would probably be easier, but it kind of adds to it, it's not, here we go, the first fight really, the whole movie, which this is probably the silliest fight too, because, he's still in boat madness, so the fight doesn't really have to make sense. But, jump over him. Yeah, it kind of adds to the charm of the movie. It's like, a lot of it is making do with what you have, like, you get these big blockbuster productions and they have everything they have in the world. They have, big sets, big money, tons of extras, tons of everything, and they make scenes that just aren't interesting, that are just boring, and they don't really do anything creative. And so a lot of it is, making do with what you got, like, I don't have money, I don't have, even set, I don't have a cameraman, I have to do everything is a tripod unless, one of us goes back, like right now, since that last shot, it was moving a little bit. Obviously, Marcus went, grabbed the camera and filmed it. You know, when you don't even have a cameraman on it, you really have to make do with whatever you have around you, whatever you got. And, you know, from the limitations comes a certain amount of charm, and I don't know, it's something comes from it. You can see the camera shadow on the ground. Here's the reveal.
I'm an undercover lifeguard.
And the undercover lifeguard, or lifeguards in general, are the nemesis of someone with boat madness, because obviously if you have boat madness, you're going to try to drown yourself, and lifeguards stop people from swimming, and people with boat madness want to go swimming. So, you know, it's sort of like that's the antagonist to David Rhodes. Here we go. We have another LA Looks. This is just a brand of hair gel, which, you know, I don't know why I'm so obsessed with it, but it's one the cheapest brands you can get. But I constantly bring it up, and it's funny anyway, so whatever. This is a very odd scene. I didn't really need to keep this in, but I thought it was funny nonetheless. So a lot of scenes are like that. You know, they'll have bits that they're not really required or needed, and I could cut them, but at the end of the day, if I do cut them, I think it loses something. The movie needs these odd moments to sort of separate it out. And here we go. He's putting David Rhodes on the train tracks. And in this scene, it's supposed to be like David Rhodes is acting like, you know, if you put like blinders on a horse, or you put a bird in the dark, they all of a sudden just go quiet and relax. So that's what David Rhodes is supposed to be like here. And we have a transition right here. If you watch, the headband changes color, the tracks change, everything changes, because this was 6 months later, completely different place that we filmed this. Here he comes, boom, kicks me right in the dick. I don't know, he just, he wasn't supposed to do that, but that's what happened. Also, some guy came over and started yelling at us for doing this because he thought he was actually like attacking me. This is Omar, another friend from high school. You know, these guys aren't like, obviously, they're all just whatever, random actors, you know, they're not like serious actors, you know, they're just friends, and they're anyone I could find to really get to be in the movie. But I think they all did good jobs, you know. I think for what I needed, they all worked perfectly fine, you know. And Omar's, he's having trouble improvising here, so he just keeps telling me to shut up. But also, you know, David Rhodes has just now been kidnapped by this guy, and he's surprisingly calm about it, you know. And I think that's one of the things that was supposed to be sort of funny, you know, is that David Rhodes is constantly put in these situations where, you know, he's in over his head and all this crazy stuff's going on, but he's always like just calm. And Omar almost crashed there, and and you know, he's just trying to bond with, you know, whoever's around, and you know, he's just out to have a good time and have fun, you know. David Rhodes likes to party. And so here's Omar calling this his I guess his like person who hired him, and it was supposed to be Dr. Willie, and I was gonna film scenes and intercut them with Dr. Willie, but I never did because it's, you know, better to leave it ambiguous. Why Dr. Willie would have David kidnapped and tortured? It was supposed to be sort of like all a big setup to make you know, to sort of distract David Rhodes from, you know, his other things. He's supposed to be sort of like depressed and stuff. And here we go. The beginning of the torture scene. And in this scene again, David is very friendly to his captor. Another scene that was hard to film, several reasons, really. One, it was very cold. Two, the fake blood was like, we had to use dirt and tomato sauce and all this stuff. And the garage was very cramped, so it was hard to find shots that we could do. Also, like, he really hit me there, and there's lots of times when I was, like, genuinely getting hurt, and so it was hard to film, but, like, I'm the one who's telling him to do this stuff, and so like, I don't have anyone to blame. It's not like, I can say I was traumatized, I would do it again, but, wasn't exactly the best experience. And so there's Omar. He's trying to get information about Boat Madness and stuff. And so we filmed a couple of these shots, but none of them, like, I spit out blood here, but you can't see it, and that's the problem. And all these shots, I was always putting in blood. Okay, and this was just a device Omar had in his garage, for landscaping. It's just to clump up leaves. And it did hurt, because those things did grab your neck and scrape them up, It was not exactly the greatest and easiest thing to have around your neck. I know it doesn't really look like it hurts. I like this, little back and forth banter. There's always a lot of banter with with the characters. Even David Rhodes gets along with the people who even try to kill him. And here we go, Omar calling up. And it's supposed to be that originally the characters, this terrorist guy was supposed to be like hired by the U.S. government, and it was supposed to be some sort of like odd statement on rendition, and he was supposed to be like an outsourced person from a different country who they the U.S. government would send David Rhodes to so that he could torture him, and the U.S. government wouldn't be culpable or palpable, whatever that word is. And but we sort of dropped that, and he just stayed as the inept sort of torturer guy. This is like his first time. There's a lot of dialogues about how he's gonna lose his job and his family's gonna get hurt. And here, the first time we did this, Omar actually did clip it to my nipple, and it hurt like a bitch, and it sucked. Once again, the LA looks being used and all that stuff. So we dropped a lot of these things. There was always these like subtext to these sort of minor characters and stuff, and in the end it just really wasn't necessary. Alright, so now we have the waterboarding scene, and this was probably not a good idea for a lot of reasons, but mainly because we didn't know how to waterboard. I told him to waterboard me. I told Omar, like, all right, Omar, just waterboard me. And, we just looked up something how to do it. And, afterwards, later on, we read, oh, that's not how you do it. I think you're just supposed to cover the nose and the water rushes in and you keep the mouth open so they can still breathe through the mouth. So it's just simulated drowning. But it really sucks, man. It really, we did it a bunch of times and it doesn't feel good. You just immediately feel like you're drowning. And, I felt like crap after I did this, but, yeah, it's definitely torture. It's not fun. It sucks. Fucking, ooh, I wouldn't do that again. I mean, I did it like 10 times just to be, just for the shot, which I guess we probably didn't even really need that much, but whatever. Also, because he has Boat Madness, he's always desiring water, but waterboarding is supposed to be simulated drowning, so it's supposed to be fake drowning when he's supposed to really drown himself. So it's supposed to be that's something that can weaken him. But here Omar forgets to use the thing and doesn't waterboard him properly, and he just allows David to take in all the water. And so David, drinks up all the water and becomes crazy. He goes into beast mode, is taken over by the boat madness, and gets his revenge on Omar. And Omar's mom came in while we were filming this, and she was like, "What the hell is going on?" But it was funny. Also, originally, it's kind of unclear what happens to Omar, but it's supposed to be that, David Rhodes does something to him. And his dog just followed me out, which is good anyway, because it started making these weird sounds. And, originally, he wasn't going to die or whatever, but I thought it was like a good way to end that scene anyway. Now we have the transition to Joey Mills, and this is the start of the next part of the movie, but it's not really the next part. As I see it, there's really kind of 3 parts of the movie. There's the beginning part with David Rhodes gets diagnosed with boat madness, and and then he goes off and gets crazy. So that part primarily focuses on David Rhodes. Then the next part of the movie is the Dr. Willie segment, where it primarily focuses on Dr. Willie and his search for the cure. And then the last part is sort of the finale of, Dr. Willie and David Rhodes, and it's sort of them, trying to, I don't know, just David Rhodes trying to swim and the end of it. It's just a conclusion, basically. So this was filmed in my basement. This is one of the scenes where I actually spent a lot more time on the lighting and just trying to get the feel of it right, because it was difficult to me because I wanted to make it so, obviously he's talking to Dr. Willie in the foreground, but I wanted to make it so you couldn't see Dr. Willie at all, just the outline, and so I really wanted the Beastmaster character to be light. So I, had to really mess with the lighting and stuff. But the problem is, well, it's not really a problem, but most people don't even I don't really have to worry about them guessing that it's Dr. Willie, because they don't expect Dr. Willie to come back. They thought he was just sort of a throwaway character. They didn't, he's not really given a whole lot of emphasis up until this point. He's actually seen, in the beginning, in the first scene, he acts completely like an asshole. And so people don't think it would make any sense for him to come back and become a prominent character again. But then again, Boat Madness is not about making sense or doing things that people expect or don't expect or anything, So here we have, this is the next scene. It was filmed just in the woods on some trails behind my house. It's, I think, honestly, not that interesting looking of a scene, just because these woods, compared to like a lot of the locations that I try to choose like an interesting looking location. So this location's not that interesting looking. It just looks like a regular sort of woods. But that kind of doesn't matter for the scene anyway, because the scene is supposed to not make the woods look exotic and cool. It's just supposed to make them look sort of run down and old and just dilapidated. It's just supposed to be the equivalent of like an old not abandoned, but just an old sort of dying forest. And it's supposed to be because, you see, there's all these crazy effects and stuff. It's supposed to be that because David Rhodes has gotten boat madness, and he's so enveloped in the boat madness that, the boat madness effects are following him. They're just draining the land of energy, and they're destroying it. And it's supposed to be sort of like the King Arthur myth. When King Arthur becomes sick, the land itself becomes sick. And so when David Rhodes is sick, he's so sick with the boat madness, and he's just sort of draining the life out of the land, and it's all becoming just nasty. And so that's why I edited all the colors to make the grays more prominent and to turn down the lights, even though it is still fairly bright. I didn't make it dark. I mostly just made it more gray. Stuff like that. And so that hatchet I used that hatchet in a lot of things. I think I use it in some other scene. Oh, I use it in a scene that was cut. There's a scene that was cut in between this scene and the last scene where David is sort of in beast mode and he haunts a guy's house. But the majority of these, like the outfit that he's wearing, was he just had a backpack in his, like one of those sort of traveler's backpacks in his car. I had the flannel. The flask was, he had the flask. We had those weird little runners bottles that he uses. Like almost all of the time, the outfits and the props and everything, it's just like what we can find, you know, and we sort of, it's all about working whatever we can find into the storyline. And this is just me flipping out, and he's sort of scared, and that's his action hero line. A lot of times it's supposed to be sort of action hero-y, like pretend action hero, so the characters will say bad action hero lines, especially later on. And you can see now the colors are back to normal. I really am that pale, you know. So there he goes, he drags me. And this is when I start using layers. So I'm into both layers, and if you look, you can see lines where the shadows don't match up. Dr. Willie there. Joey's wearing my clothes right there. You can see he has a beard. That's the only time I really ever do that. And you can see the flannel underneath, but I don't really care. It's not that important. And he picks me up. I'm all limp. He puts me down, and then we go to a shot. And here we go. And this is kind of, you know, establishing the plot. And this is another two-shot where I filmed it twice. You know, I'd film me talking to Joey, and then I just film me sitting in the chair, and then just have layers and cut off sides of the layers. This one worked better than the last one. You can't really notice too much of distortion and stuff.
It's a legitimate disease. What, you don't believe it's a legitimate disease?
And so it's a legitimate disease. I'm always trying to make it seem like it's not a real disease, because I wanted all the people thought the twist was going to be that, you know, boat madness is a fake disease, and that Dr. Willie and David Rhodes are the same person, but obviously that's not the twist I went with. So now, this is kind of like, there's a consistency of everyone seems to be searching for water. And I like in this speech how she slowly begins to be disgusted by David Rhodes, and here Joey says he joins the quest, and then he just disappears, because originally it was going to be, so this whole segment is like the Knights of the Round Table, where they go out to save King Arthur by finding the Holy Grail, and instead of the Holy Grail, it's purified water. And it's supposed to be that David Rhodes was trying to find water, and he could never get to it, but Willie, surrounded by water all the time, and there's tons of water, but none of it is the water he's looking for. So, especially because I live on Long Island, there's lots of places that have lots of water. And so it's easy to find cool places with water, but it's also an interesting dynamic of Willie can find water all the time. He's always finding water, and David Rhodes is always struggling, just fighting to get water. Yeah. And so, like I was saying, Joey Mills is supposed to be more of a... I just got angry at that rock because I almost tripped on it. Joey Mills is supposed to be more of a recurring character, and he was going to, like, be with me on the quest, and then he was going to fail and give me, you know, some sort of assistance and tell me to quit, like the like the King Arthur legend, you know, and he's just going to be one of the Knights of the Round Table that fails. But he just disappears, which I think is... I could have cut it, because there's no problem with it, but I think it's it's funny either way if he says that and then he just disappears. This section, there's a movie called Birdemic, and Birdemic is a generally awful movie about, it's a combination of like the birds and a romance movie where the birds go crazy and attack them. But the thing about Birdemic, which is, it's just really awful, but it has this weird environmentalist like twist to it. Oh, it's all about like global warming and pollution. And so I was trying to like turn this segment of the movie is supposed to be kind of environmentalist-y, and it's supposed to be that, you know, sort of a statement on what are we as humans, and you know, it's not like too serious, but it's just, this is sort of inspired by that, sort of looking for water and it's all polluted and what have we done as human beings, and it's just sort of a take, you know, a funny little what can we do as humans. This is a quarry that me and my friend just walked into. Ryan Duff is filming all this right now, which helped out a lot because you get things done much, much quicker when you have an actual cameraman. I really liked the way this quarry looked. This was just, you know, we just walked around the quarry, and, you know, I'm sure we wouldn't have been allowed to go there if we had asked, but no one was around, so we just went on in. It's an interesting looking place, though, and, you know, that's sort of the thing that I was tempted to cut this shot because I didn't want to have any technology in it, but it was sort of rusted and old, so I kept the shot anyway. Anyway, there's all of this, the whole movie is filmed, all of Boat Madness, it's all filmed like within a very small area. And it's sort of interesting, all of the variety of shots you can get in a small area. You know, these shots are less than a mile from other shots that are completely surrounded by water, or other shots of all sorts of things. And it's just interesting that if you really look and if you are able with the camera to film specific angles and all sorts of things, that you can get very interesting shots. You can get lots of shots of places, and all in a very small area. This whole thing's filmed in East Hampton, and you go through it and you're like, where the hell is all these places? And you could live, you know, you could live in this area your whole life and you're not going to ever find it. You know, without looking, you're never going to see it. So, here we go. He's testing the water more and more.
Way out here in the wasteland. There's no way this is secure. There's no way.
And the tester that we used was a car gauge thing to check the air pressure in your tires, and it was just a random string that I taped to the back of my cell phone. But it was just, you know, another case of what can we make out of, and it gets the job done. That's what I'm saying. Is like, you can have a big budget, you can have all these little things, but at the end of the day, you can make things do. You can see now, if you look at the headband, it's a spinning headband. And it changes because I kept losing headbands. So, if you watch the headbands, they subtly change over time.
I don't think there's anything we can do for you, David.
So yeah, very environmentalisty at this point. And it's just very like nature-y. There's different theme, you know. This part of the Dr. Willie segment, it's supposed to be about, you know, his quest or whatever is really exhausting to him. It's, you know, it takes him a long time and he's searching all over the place for this item. I mean, for the pure water, you know, and it's his dedication to finding this pure water to save David Rhodes that's important, you know. It's the idea of it. And this is the walking dunes. Again, very close to the other locations. This is a great place. I like filming stuff here. It's just very interesting looking. There had been a lot of rainfall, so it was flooded. And a lot of places when I filmed like this environmental Dr. Willie part were flooded. Places that, so I got a lot of interesting shots. Here we go. Ryan Duff as the Raider. He plays the Swamp King as well. This is a broadsword that I use wushu, so I had a broadsword laying around. It's all rusted from all the time that I've used it. Why Willie would run away immediately after punching a guy and beating him up, who knows? If you can see, Ryan Duff has holes in his pants, and one of the shots I couldn't use because his balls fell out of his pants, which is not a great thing. And this was just a rifle that he had for hunting small game, and but it's an interesting sort of westerny take of, it's sort of like for a few dollars more if the guy pulls the gun out on him and he just barely makes it in time. Boom. Dr. Willie gets shot. And I don't explain what happens here, because in the next scene, Dr. Willie isn't injured. He's not, messed up. So I don't say if it was a tranquilizer or what it was. I just go on. Move on. I never stop. I never give people time to say something, just to say, well, what happened there? So that's sort of the style of filmmaking I have, because there's so many continuity errors, there's so many all sorts of problems. But the point of it isn't, if you're the type of person who's going to focus on the problems, you're not going to enjoy the movie anyway. So you don't go for those type of people. You just try to keep it entertaining. If you keep it entertaining, the person's not going to ask questions. If they're at the point where they're asking continuity questions, they're asking other questions, you've already lost them as an audience. So, I mean, that's the kind of style I go for. And this right here, this is near Ryan Duff's house. So the Raider kidnaps Dr. Willie, but the Raider is not really, he's not like a bad guy. He's supposed to be a good guy. I don't like having clearly defined bad guys. And this is Ryan Duff's car. He's a big car guy, so he just took off pieces of his car. A police officer came in to check it out, and somebody must have called the police after they saw it, because we were just driving around his neighborhood, but we weren't going on the highways or anything. But it's a cool look. It looks very sort of Mad Maxy or apocalyptic, but it's not really. I mean, we're driving around places that are luxurious places. And this shot coming up where I fall out of the car, we had to do 2 takes of this shot. Right here, it starts. And the first take we did, we didn't practice and we didn't really know how to do it. I just sort of said, okay, just drive by and I'll just roll out. The first take I did, I rolled out very badly and completely hurt myself. It just sucked. And in the shot right here, you can see where, because it's the second take, I look ahead to try to find the exact spot right now. Right there, yeah. I look ahead and then I pretend to fall asleep. And it's supposed to be that he falls asleep right here, and that he just falls out because there's no doors. And that roll was fine. That was perfectly fine. But the first time was I didn't turn myself enough. So when I was rolling too much parallel with the car, and it just really hurt. But we did another take anyway, even though I really didn't want to get hurt. But the second take was fine. It didn't hurt at all. But that's the kind of stuff, if you're making movies on your own and you're just doing stuff, sometimes you do stuff and it doesn't work and you get hurt, but it's not that big of a deal. Here we go, back in Montauk, rolling down all these goddamn hills. I rolled down all these hills and it kind of hurt. I thought it wouldn't hurt that much. And I guess the joke is that he just keeps rolling and rolling. And he's supposed to be asleep this whole time. Just rolling at these cliffs by the Montauk Lighthouse. That hurt a lot. That was dangerous too. Rolling on those cliffs. Those cliffs are tall, those cliffs are jagged, those cliffs are rough. I didn't want to... Very easily I could have messed up and hurt myself, but I mean, luckily I didn't, so not a big deal. And this is the very rocky sort of beaches around the lighthouse in Montauk. Cool, they've got a lot of cliffs. I've ever since I was young, I thought I really want to do this. Everyone, when I show them, is shocked by this because they don't know what to expect. This was a beached whale that just showed up in East Hampton, and I was walking the dog and I saw it, and I saw the police officers and everything. I was shocked, but I knew I had to use it. And some people don't like that I used the whale. They think it's wrong that I filmed the whale and I included it in the movie. But I mean, he gives a sort of environmentalist sort of talk here, and to me, the whale was going to die anyway, and the whale did die. He was going to die. He died, and some people say it's exploitive or whatever, but I think it uses the whale and it does something interesting with it, and it sort of talks about it and brings it forward, and I think it's all right. I think it's good to incorporate those sort of events into the movie. The whale was going to die. There was nothing I could do to save it. It's just the way it is. Here, I'd never seen a beached whale before. This is all in Montauk when the town was flooded, like crazy flooded. That was the same train station part from before, and you could see how much different it is with the floods. This is this is just right behind Ryan Duff's house, but I thought it was perfect, this little swamp thing. I really wanted a swamp. I wanted it to be more swampy because we're really trying to go into this King Arthur legend here. This is all a King Arthur legend sort of thing. I mean, he's even got a sword now. He's supposed to be a knight, whatever. And I really wanted sort of a classical, medieval sort of disgusting swamp for him to fight in. And here we go. He's just really exhausted. You can see my hair's getting really long now. It's yeah. I was tempted to change the colors in this scene too, but eventually I decided not to. And here's the Swamp King. I like that he starts with silence. That was interesting. And the idea to have this little alligator on his chest, I don't know where it came from. Somehow we decided this, and once we decided this, it just made too much sense. It was just too perfect, and people don't really get it. He's supposed to sort of be the protector of this land. He's supposed to be sort of the swamp. He's protecting it, and he's just it's supposed to be some sort of weird symbiotic relationship, maybe, or it's like some sort of they are lovers, or who knows really what is going on. But I like that. I like not explicitly saying it and sort of making fun of it. And even the character, Willie, he doesn't know what is this? I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. And I find that funny, personally. So now the dialogue here, obviously, we had to dub it later. So it was just me talking, and then... and then, we would dub it later. It's supposed to be like my character's no match for this weird Swamp King man. And boom. This actually did a lot of damage to the sword hitting that thing. The idea also to shoot that out of the crocodile's mouth was an interesting one. We were running out of time, so we really had to squeeze this martial arts scene into very short, unfortunately, but whatever. At the end of the day, it's fine. And my character gets slapped, and then he gets crucified. So this is right here supposed to be a joke, not even a joke, you know, homage, you can call it, rip off or whatever, joke, satire, I don't know. It's supposed to be the scene in Conan the Barbarian where Conan is crucified on the Tree of Woe, and the LA looks in the scene in the Conan the Barbarian, Conan bites a vulture and drinks its blood, but we didn't have that, so I used LA looks, which it's a, you know, stupid joke, but it's funny. And that was my attempt at the Arnold laugh, which, you know, I thought was funny. Now, we get this knife again, and this knife just keeps reappearing over and over and over again. And who put the knife there, who didn't, it doesn't really matter. But it's supposed to be that the knife, you know, Dave is on there over time, and the knife is slowly flaying away the rope. And so he's going to fall, and Dave right now is sort of daydreaming, he's drifting out of consciousness, and boom, when the rope breaks, he falls into the dream world. Or, I mean, whatever this world is. And this was sort of a big deal to film. It took a lot of work. This was probably the most difficult thing. It took a lot of work. I just had a tarp in the basement, and actually the cat had urinated on it several times, so the tarp smelled like cat urine. And I went out to the tennis court and I put the tarp, I just used some paper clips and a bunch of random shit and duct tape and everything, taped up the tarp and used it as a green screen. And it was the first time I'd ever done extensive green screen, and it was quite difficult. And then I had to sort of choreograph the action scene and try to make it varied and try to make, because it's easy to do just like two people squaring off to each other against each other like Mortal Kombat video game style, but I'm trying to vary the shots and have interesting angles. And editing in this was very difficult just because the timings and everything, it's you know, it took a lot of work. But I think it came out well. I mean, if you are obsessed with like the graphics not really lining up or something, you're not going to like it. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You know, that type of person's not really going to enjoy this movie anyway, so why worry about them? Now, we move on. The background, the color of it and like the way it moves and stuff is supposed to change based on like the feelings and just the what is going on in the scene. So it's supposed to look more sort of just disturbed here, and later on it's supposed to look more sort of heavenly and pure. But right now this is the like Dragon Ball Z ripoff section where my character charges up, and since he's found that the pure water is inside of him, he's going to destroy this embodiment that, you know, that represents his failure to save David Rhodes, or, you know, it represents both madness. It's the direct confrontation, and so he is going to fight it head on and destroy it with his pure water that's inside of him, which is the pure feelings. Uses energy ball that, and then he's conquered his demons and he's able to save David Rhodes. And like Excalibur, which I think is a great movie, and a lot of this is supposed to be sort of a joke on Excalibur. It's sort of playing on lots of things, where in Excalibur we have this dream sequence and the guy finds the Holy Grail in the dream, and then he takes it and it just appears, and then he's back in real life and you don't know if it was what happened. I do that same thing where he finds the holy water in the dream, but the holy water in the dream just materializes and he's in real life in front of David Rhodes, and you're thinking, well, how did he get in front of David Rhodes? Was that symbolic? What was that? Whatever. And so also the idea to use as the pure water just a jug of water, I thought it was funny because it was so sort of stupid and crude, and it's not like you'd expect the thing you would get at the end of a quest, especially something so dramatic and epic and blah 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 blah, so much work, to be like a golden chalice, to be something really grand and over the top, and then it's just a jug of like Poland spring water, and David doesn't even make him drink it, he just throws it all over him. I thought it was funny, and it's just another sort of stupid take on the King Arthur legend. And here we go, another one of these two shots where I just filmed the same thing twice and stand in one half of the frame in one and another half in the other. But the problem with this was I had to get my mom to pour the water on me while I was in the chair, but the water on the chair caused the ground to sink. So over time, the differences was too much and it looked weird. But I was able to sort of just make it quick enough and, make the edit fine. So people don't really notice and they think, wow, that worked. And I mean, it kind of didn't. This right here, this line is so just straight out of Excalibur. This is what the king says right after he gets cured, and he says it's time to be king once again.
David Rhodes.
And so I put it into David Rhodes. Boom, right there. It's a huge cut. It's a huge cut that doesn't work. Look, they're in the middle of a completely different forest. David Rhodes was soaked, now he's dry. It was just something that I didn't film right. I just didn't do it right, and I regret that it's such a bold transition. I wanted to film something in this forest, but I just didn't think at the time that like how to make it work. I could have faded, but it just didn't work. Again, this forest just in East Hampton, and it's a brilliant forest. I don't know, it just looks great. So this is the only really super. There's a couple other small serious parts, but this is like the main serious sort of. I was trying to be dramatic acting. I couldn't really pull it off that well. I tried to cry originally, but it's hard to cry on camera. I'm not that good of an actor, I would say I'm more of like a comedic actor than a serious drama actor. And this is like a big reveal, and I wanted to do it justice. I wanted to have it be more powerful. In the end, I don't think it quite worked as well as I wanted it to. But, it's fine, I guess. It gets the job done. The thing that people don't get here is that the doctor reveals that he faked the tests and that there is a boat madness as a disease, but David Rhodes doesn't have it. That the doctor he told David Rhodes that he had boat madness because David Rhodes is depressed, and he was just trying to give David Rhodes something else to think about. He thought that if David had a project, or if he was worrying about something else, that he would no longer be depressed. Like, if someone has a real problem, or if someone gets cancer, or they get something serious, they start to care about their life, and they have a new leaf because every day is granted to them. But the problem is that David Rhodes likes having the boat madness more than he likes living a normal life. And so now, even though he doesn't have boat madness, he wants to have boat madness so much that it's like psychosomatically gives himself boat madness. And it's also supposed to be that right here, the stuff that he's saying is supposed to be like a critique of society and stuff, and it was, I wanted to say something. I wanted to say it was like supposed to be almost self-referential, because people would always make fun of me for making these boat madness movies, and people would always say they're stupid and why do you do them and they suck and all these things. And so it was supposed to be at this point I was saying something to them look, I'd rather make these boat madness movies, I'd rather have these boat madness movies and do this stuff instead of just doing what you want me to do and being the same sort of bullshit and just get a job and all these things that people tell you. it was sort of like me saying that to them to try to just, I don't know, that's what was supposed to be like. And I don't know if it comes across like that. There are other undertones and stuff, you know. The whole movie is sort of supposed to be some sort of metaphor for depression, and it's supposed to be more self-referential that, you know, I was pretty depressed when I was making it, and, you know, this was sort of an escape for me making these Boat Madness movies. And I know that the Boat Madness movies are never going to amount to anything, but I still film them and do them anyway, because I'd rather live a life where I make something like Boat Madness and do something like Boat Madness instead of have a job and just do the older thing, because I won't be happy with that anyway, even if Boat Madness doesn't really succeed. So now we have Joey Mills again, and so now that David Rhodes has accepted that he's got Boat Madness, he goes and he fights all the people that stopped him before. And there's Joey Mills, the guy who played the Beastmaster, and he's supposed to be playing the same sort of character, but not entirely the same character. It's confusing. It's you know, because he comes out and he starts talking about jazz, and he's a jazzman, and he's doing all these things, and so it's supposed to sort of be like you don't really know what was real and what wasn't real, but yeah, it's just also the tone is supposed to have changed. David Rhodes before was supposed to be more sympathetic. He was supposed to be more, I don't know, he was supposed to be the hero, and now he's supposed to be the anti-hero, because he's supposed to have Boat Madness now, and he's going to go off to drown himself, and everyone is trying to save him from this fate, but they're trying to save him from this fate, and he just brutally murders them all. And so this is like, you know, he just stabs this man and impales him, and then, you know, runs him down, and then kicks him in the balls into space and explodes him. And there we go, another action hero line. And it's supposed to be, you know, he's becoming less and less sympathetic, and, you know, more and more of an anti-hero. Here we have a little impassioned speech by Joey Mills. I love this speech. Another weird sort of moment that people probably don't expect in a Boat Madness movie, but I think it's good. I think it works. Also, something I didn't really say before, but in the last scene where he says that he set it all up, Dr. Willie set up all the Boat Madness and stuff, it's implied, and there was dialogue before that I cut, that where Dr. Willie explained that the undercover lifeguard was hired by him, and the guy who tortured him was hired by him, and it was all like a setup. Like the undercover lifeguard was hired by him to make sure Willie didn't hurt himself, and the guy that tortured him was a setup to give him some sort of like he wasn't supposed to actually hurt him. He was just supposed to like pretend to torture him to, you know, make it seem more real and dramatic and make his life interesting. But I cut it all because I wanted it to be less direct. I wanted it to be, you know, could it be happening or could it not be happening? More ambiguous, and it just wasn't as interesting when it was said. Also, it took a lot of time to explain all that stuff, and I don't think you have to explain all that stuff. It's interesting either way. Even if the guy wasn't hired by Willie and he's just trying to stop him anyway, it's an interesting thing. And here we have the pipe scene, the pipe master scene. This scene came out pretty well, especially because of how rushed it was. We just found those pipes, and I don't know, I kind of wanted it to seem like the wilderness itself was attacking Willie, and it was like different. And it was also at this point, it was, you know, it gets increasingly hard to do something interesting. You know, when it's so much craziness all the time, you have to just try newer and weirder things. But I like the way it came out, and it was fun to film this pipe stuff, even though You know, when we were fighting against the pipes, it really hurt to get hit by those pipes. I look really pale at this point because I think this is now getting to the beginning of summer. Like 16 months after I started filming. So, yeah. Now we have this random house that I enter, you know, quite legally. And we only had one take of that because obviously, what are we going to do afterwards? And the first day we went to the place to do it, there was just some random guy hanging out there. And we were hanging out there too because we were about to film. And like both of us, I feel like the other guy was doing something sketchy as well, but both of us were both doing something sketchy, so we didn't want to, like, neither of us was really saying, oh, you need to leave. We were both just like, hey, oh, hey, how you doing? It was very awkward. Here we have Marcus enters again in his dramatic entrance, and he establishes himself as a, I guess, an antagonistic force. And he says there's a line here about how he's been using the pipes the whole time to redirect the water, and that was just a funny thing that I thought would be, you know, like, it's just a funny way to try to make the pipes fit in, but they don't really have to fit in. And now, also, like, the dialogue's getting a little bit more campy and, like, overly dramatic and stuff. Here we have a fight. I wanted to do a fight that almost all the fights have just been, like, barehanded. So, you know, I have martial arts experience, and so does Marcus. A lot of experience with stabs, and stabs are easy to make a fight, and it looks good, and it's easy to make, and this is a very interesting place, so I really wanted to have a good fight here. Right here, we do a two-man fighting form. Boom. This was something that we did hundreds and hundreds of times growing up in martial arts class, just over and over again. So this is why, even though we were rushed, we had to fight sequence, we can do this long sequence here because we both have the experience and we both know this fighting form by heart. And I break the pipe there, but also we ran out of tape. This was one of the few times that I actually ran out of tape and battery on my camera, and so we just had to get out. So we had to move the location because, you know, we're nowhere near an outlet or anything. And my character proceeds to demolish a bunch of fake trees. I used to just do that all the time. Like, this is just an area that always has these dead trees, and I don't know. I used to have fun doing it. And here we are moving on to this sort of, like, I don't know what this is. This is just some power lines, but people just seem to throw a bunch of random crap out here. And it was interesting, just all the stuff that there was around out here. And so I wanted to use it. I kind of wish we had done more to utilize. Like, we did that where it was obviously fake. Marcus didn't tell me right now he was going to throw a rock at me, so I was genuinely scared there. You know, because there's so much random stuff, but we were really pressed for time, and, you know, it kind of shows, but, you know, it's still funny. I'd like to actually go back, maybe film something there again, because it's just so much random stuff, like burnt out cars and trash.
Where's your water now? Is it coming help you?
You could see Marcus actually did get cut just on some random trash. There's a lot of random trash out there. And my neck looks really funny here, so I kept it. The shot, and that's like an old kung fu shot where I filmed it and did it in reverse. And Marcus just books it. My character goes after him, and then we have this sort of. This is like. There's an old kung fu sort of an anime sort of stereotype of a guy who sort of gets beat up a ton, but it doesn't really affect him, and he just keeps going and going and going. And so now that he's gotten rid of the guy's pipes, you know, he can defeat Marcus really easily, and so it's supposed to be that the character can just take it because he's so far beyond Marcus's ability. And it's also supposed to be sort of like a coming up, you see the Matrix spoof rip-off sort of thing. But it's just, you know, didn't feel like choreographing a whole nother fight, so it's just an easy way to do that and make it sort of funny and over the top, like that David Rhodes now becomes some sort of bizarre superhero is just silly, and like, why would he have superpowers all of a sudden? All that sort of stuff. It's just it's just dumb and silly and whatever. So that was the little Matrix ripoff. And then, charging up your chi or whatever is going on here. But he gets hit. And we needed a way to end it. And I came up with there was a bunch of computer parts everywhere. And we both had to go. I was late for work. Marcus was late for work. So I came up with just on this fly, okay, we're going to do Predator ending sort of take on that. You're going to be a robot. I stab you, put you down, and boom, transition into the Predator ending, and you sort of do. And originally, we should have watched the Predator ending, but, we were rushed. And this is the cheesiest effect maybe in the whole movie. It's funny, but we were gonna have him try to speak like the Predator, and the Predator goes like wah, wah, but it just, screw it. It's fine either way. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, and so this was supposed to be like the Predator's armband, and Marcus is spitting up coke. We bought some coke just to give us some energy for the fight. Here we go. We have a big. This is him making his. Self-destruct sequence. And boom. And originally he says, I'll see you in the bayou, Grandpa, because that was a way of tying into the deleted scene, but it was deleted, so whatever. Now we go on. This is not abandoned, actually, this horse is there all the time, but for whatever reason, this is a horse farm. We went there that day, no horses around, and it was like misty and sort of mysterious out, so also like, I kind of have like a reoccurring gag with horses a lot of times. So, it's supposed to be that my character is running around and, now the Swamp King is stalking him. And my character doesn't seem to notice. This is out in Montauk. This is Camp Hero. This is like an old military base. And this is, these old bunkers and stuff. But they're very like big and large and sort of just impressive looking and different, so I wanted to film something there, and here we go. Swamp King grabs my character, blah blah blah. Again, this is one of the scenes that we had to rush because the daylight was ending, and the voice goes back and forth between me and Ryan Duff, the guy playing the character, because I wanted to get the movie done, and he wasn't really around as much, so I just filmed a bunch of the lines. And this it all becomes very bizarre here. I definitely wanted to bring back Dr. Willie and have it just work him more into the ending and make the ending sort of more, because the ending right now, it he goes back and there's sort of closure on a lot of these little side stories, but there doesn't even really need to be closure. Originally it just ended with him after the big fight with myself, where Dr. Willie fights David Rhodes. It just ended. My character just went off and went swimming, but I decided to add in all this other stuff to just make it sort of tie in loose ends and give it sort of a larger, more impressive sort of ending instead of just sort of melodramatically fading. This is that same horse farm. This is just the outside of it. We had to find somewhere to film, so we needed a place that was well lit. So we drove by and we said, look, this place looks great, this is the best we're going to find at, I don't know, I think it was like 9 o'clock, and, So, also in these scenes, the thing that was holding on the crocodile started to fall off, so we constantly had to work around that. I think a lot of times you can see that he doesn't have the crocodile on his chest, but it's fine. There, my headband falls off. It's back on my head. And I guess this is supposed to be how real men settle their problems. They bring it. See, there's no alligator on him right there. They settle their problems on the court, man, like ballers. There's a good transition there, and then zoom out. Brian Duff. Whoop. Ball appears. Obviously, we just threw away the ball, played it in reverse. This was I worked at a gym, and so while the gym was, after the gym was closed, Ryan Duff just came by and we just filmed something late one night. Came out, I really wanted to do something sort of it's a different space and it's unexpected and it has all of the necessary elements. It's very, it fits and it's different, and that's sort of the thing I look for. Like, when you see it, you go, okay, yeah, this would fit in a Boat Madness, but at no point do you expect for there to be some sort of weird basketball scene. And I think if you watch it, Ryan Duff only makes like 2 baskets, and I also only make 2 baskets. We could not hit anything. We just, I'm all right at basketball, and but we couldn't make anything, and it was really difficult. We had to do so many takes because of how difficult it was. Especially some of the shots where I'll show it when it comes to it. This is, classic sort of just awkward moment where we both sort of acknowledge each other and take a break. I was gonna have dialogue at that little awkward part, but I cut it. It was funnier without it. See, and then right here, my character misses once, goes up, misses again, and then screams like he made it. Boom. Just me running ahead. Ryan Duff, stay still. I just did it like 10 times speed. I think this is the part right here. No, this is the ball storm. This I just had to throw, like, obviously you see the first one is, as many balls as I could handle, and I throw them all up against the backboard, and then I had a ton of balls just on the ground, and I just threw, make one, but I threw as many as I could, as fast as I could, but it was very hard because they just go all over the place, and it was, I was running around like a madman trying to find balls to throw. Right here, when I passed to myself. We had to do this like 5 or 6 times because I couldn't make that last shot. It just was difficult. Okay, and here he says, I'll show you something I picked up since the last time we met. How he picked it up, or what this even is, or why he would pick this up, or anything. No sense, but it's just something that, an action hero would say. It's like, one-liner that you just throw in. Boom, knocks him down, slam, and we pulled over. There was like this little step ladder, so I just stood on the step ladder and did all the just threw all the balls and just did the crazy power up. And here we go. He's incapacitated by the sheer force of that attack. And here we go. He's about to release his true power, but he doesn't get the chance because the game ends. There you can see the time. It was almost 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, so I like that we don't even get to see his true power. And then I wanted the crocodile to give a little speech and just add some more melodrama and stuff, and I don't know, try to make it seem a little bit sort of not pretentious, but sort of overly dramatic and blah blah blah. And then I wanted to do this thing where I would set the crocodile on fire, but the only thing we had was an aerosol can and a thing of flame. So you can see Ryan Duffy has the lighter and the aerosol can, and he's blowing it, and it was blowing right in front of my face, and it just almost caught me on fire several times. Oh, also, I think it's funny that the crocodile head says that sort of stuff, and he's like very nice and forgiving, and then Dr. Willie just kills him. Like that seems to happen a lot. There was more dialogue here. We cut it because it was too. I cut it. I don't know who we is. I cut it because it was too windy, and it just didn't pick up. It was funny, but that's what happens. You just got to work around problems like that. Here we are out at the beach, and this little part of the run-up was filmed earlier than the next part. you'll see that the lighting changes. It was filmed a couple of weeks earlier. I filmed an ending with Poseidon, and it just wasn't very strong or unique. And when we filmed the ending originally, the water was super cold, and so we came back a couple of weeks later, filmed a little bit of extra stuff. All the giant stuff and the robot stuff is all extra, but the rest of it is old. See, and then he runs out of the water. There's Dan Rowe, and then he gets dried off in his Poseidon outfit, but he just looks like some sort of weird domestic terrorist.
I can't let you go swimming.
So,
Do you think you are?
see the lighting changed pretty dramatically.
You know who I am? You know who I am?
Now, little funny fact, when we were filming this, Darrow kept making fun of me for spelling, he thought I spelled Poseidon wrong, and he had convinced me that that was the wrong way, and then when we went home and looked it up, that was the right way, and it sort of, from then on, I can't look at Poseidon and think I've spelled it right. We kept saying, Poseidon. So yeah, now we have another weird little awkward conversation, and, you know, is it really a wizard, or is it really Poseidon? It doesn't, I don't know. It's up to you if you want to think. Basically, if you think that, you know, it's just a wizard and it's not Poseidon, when David Rhodes goes into the ocean, he goes and hangs out with Poseidon. Or he's just crazy. I mean, if you're acknowledging that this is Poseidon and there's gods and stuff, then, and he defeats the god, which is like, how could he defeat a god, you know? But, you can see someone walk by in the background. I thought that was funny. We were like, you know, pretty far down the beach, but there's only so much you can do. It is a really cheesy effect. And then we moved on to the darkness part. This we filmed just out in like a little quarry. It's actually the same place as the next shot, just like right next to it. And we didn't really have anything to set on fire. We just had a bunch of lighter fluid. And you can see when I do this, the fire, we put too much lighter fluid on, and we used an old shirt. It just burst into flames and it burned my arm. And then we ran out of stuff to use, so I started to use my socks as stuff to light on fire. So I like would tear up my socks and ride it around. And you can see some bats flying around in the background and stuff. But this was sort of, I like this idea of catching David Rhodes in an illusion, and he's sort of lost in this eternal darkness, and he's trying to find his way out with this fire. I mean, how did he make the fire? Who knows, whatever, but it's standing. And then you see I have a sword there. It goes back and forth between the sword and the stick. And this was filmed, you know, after the stuff that comes after it. So this is another out of sequence thing. But whatever. I was just using a flashlight, which was dumb because the camera has a light on it. I was trying to make it look dramatic, but I could have just used the light on the camera. It probably would have worked a lot better, but it doesn't really make a difference in the end, I guess. It just makes it look kind of grainy, but it's just one shot. So yeah, like while right here when we go into transition into the next shot, in the middle of this field, this was the place we were. Just to the left you can see there's like one of the other shots, you can see like some sand and stuff. That's where we were. You see the bag in the background, the filming bag. Boom. To green screen that little bit, I had Dan Rowe sit on the tennis court. And it's actually more difficult to make those little rumblings than I would have thought. I had to go into After Effects to do it, to try to make it look realistic and stuff. And here we go. This is just like, I wanted to make like a little bit of a monster movie. And, you know, I don't have a green screen, a professional green screen or anything. But the way I did this was, I just had Dan Rowe stand on a rock against the background, the sky, and we just green screen out the blue sky and leave the rest in, and then you green screen out the sky in this background as well, so you have multiple layered, and it works pretty well. I mean, you're not going to get like anything too good, but whatever. It's funny enough, and it gets the job done. This is Dan Rowe. I love how he does this massive attack. He blows me up like 20 times, and it does absolutely nothing to my character. But I guess that's the breaks. And this was just a rock in the field that I thought, okay, we have this rock. I'll just have you drop a rock on me, and I'll roll away from that rock, and we'll make it work. And here we go. David Rhodes forgets because he's got a short-term memory problems. He's an idiot. There we go. He's very badly walking. See, if we had a proper green screen, I could have the bottom of the feet, but he was just standing on top of a rock is how we did this. And I had to blow up the feet and stuff. And I probably could have filmed it better in retrospective, but whatever. It's funny. And just filmed his arms on the tennis court and all of this part. Pushing it up, you can see it's really pixelated in that shot because I had to get really close up. It's the same shot there. You know, obviously in the field I'm just doing this. I have to just act it all out and hopefully fix it in post. A lot of the stuff is just fix it in post.
It's time for me to
And
rock.
this is probably one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. It was supposed to be he's going to make a joke about David and Goliath killing him with a rock, but I just couldn't come up with anything, and it was funnier that I couldn't, so we stayed with it. Boom. Giant goes down, and do probably one of the more ridiculous little effects of me going into his mouth, and I didn't even really try to make it look realistic. And this is the same basement from when I did the part with the Beastmaster, bringing back David Rhodes. It's just like tried to make it look all mechanical and stuff. And I look kind of girly there, but that's alright. Control room. David Rhodes is consistently, he has trouble reading. If in any of the other stuff I do, I always make him have trouble reading and stuff like that. And here we go. I wanted to make it seem like not steampunky, but sort of old-fashioned, like he's working the robot with like a bunch of levers and just turntables and all sorts of weird stuff, but we couldn't really find anything, so I put the exercise bike next to the breakers, the whatever they're called, and that was just something that we had before take, and we just filmed. This shouldn't have worked. I don't know how that works as well as it does. It should not have worked. I didn't plan it that well, did nothing, and it just worked, and it shocks me. This is just an old treehouse that's like my stepbrother used to use, and it was like falling apart and kind of dangerous. There's nails everywhere. And originally, when David goes to the beach, this is the first place that he got knocked back, and Poseidon attacks him. And we just did all this stuff, whatever, winging it, and with his scythe. I don't know why, he has a scythe instead of a trident, because I think it was supposed to originally be death or something a little bit different. This came out very well. We just did a 1, 2, 3, let's just do it, and I'm surprised it didn't hurt Dan, because it looked like it hurt, but it didn't. Here we go. There was so you see how here he goes, David, and he has this really annoying voice. That was originally, his character was really much more annoying, and that was the joke, was that, his character was just annoying and wouldn't stop saying, David, it is not your time. But we cut out most of that dialogue because it wasn't worth the amount of time it spent to become funny. It wasn't enough of the investment didn't work. And this was originally, I was just gonna throw a bunch of balls at him from up top, so we had all those balls up there, but I just went with, oh shit, the balls. Here we go, dog spell. Getting those dogs next to each other was fucking impossible. This is my stepfamily's dog, Stella. The kind of not odd looking, it's sort of the awkward dog you'll see in a second. That one right there, that's my dog, Hillary. And the wiener dog was a friend of mine's, little wiener dog that I was looking after, and it's a very cute little Micah little wiener dog, and I thought, hey, I got this wiener dog, I might as well take advantage of it. The problem with the wiener dog was it was so like attached to me that I couldn't, it just would never leave my side. And Hillary is very, very scared of strangers, so it was like very hard to get them all in the same shot. There was a lot more of the dogs fighting, but I wasn't I thought I had hit record, but I wasn't. There was like the dogs were fighting for like 10 minutes, and then afterwards I couldn't get them to fight again. And Stella right here doesn't want any part of this. That's just her personality. She doesn't really like any sort of like running around or aggression or anything. So, Hillary and the wiener dog, they were into it. Look at that wiener dog run, and Hillary, she gets all riled up and crazy. See the wiener dog in the background again. See, and he's really annoying here, so that's why, like, his character Poseidon is so wildly inconsistent, but it goes along. And then this, I don't know what this idea was. This was just some sort of, it's very odd, and it just was one of those things that at the moment it seemed to work, but whatever. There's the snake. That was just a random snake I shot, and I thought it'd be funny. You can hear people scream right there. There were some people down the beach, and they didn't see me, and when I popped up, it scared them. So I thought that was kind of funny. And here we go. Probably the worst effects, and not cheesy, but just like badly done, on purpose. There's some piping clover nests to the right, and people were yelling at us about being too close, but we just wanted to get this done because this was filmed Memorial Day, so it was like really packed at the beach. It was really annoying. That was the only time Dan Rowe was out until like later on. So we filmed all this. We just held the tripod up high and swooped around. We're trying to avoid a lot of shots of the stuff around us because there's people around us, and you see the piping clover there. And he asked Poseidon for help to fight Poseidon, and so you don't really know what's going on. This is just a chain whip from martial arts. I have some experience with the chain whip, so that's a little bit of moves right there. And I get him on the leg, and like a lot of the stuff is just, it's all came out of nowhere, and so that's it. And this is the knife that he says earlier on in the movie, this shit has helped me through more times than you could possibly imagine. Person in the background walking by, and so this knife just keeps reappearing, and it's like what he uses to kill him. Boom. He can't. Another person in the background throws the chain whip. Boom. They both explode. That's why he gives this really annoying speech right here. David, and
Shut up, asshole.
that is the, they always have a line like let off some steam, Bennett, in Commando, or whatever, like always bet on black, or like they always have these like catchphrase lines at the yippee-ki-yay motherfucker. They always have these lines, and I thought it would be like, this is his big superhero moment, and he has to say the dumbest sort of pointless thing ever. Alright, and then this is the payoff. This is the payoff. David gets to go swimming. The whole movie is building up to David gets to go swimming. This water was freezing. It was so cold. It was so unbelievably cold. It hurt so much because this was in, I think, May, and the water in May is still like, it's like 50 degrees, 40 degrees, and it wasn't even that hot out. So the problem was, like, Dan Rowe has the camera right here and he's filming, and it was so cold that he would go in for a little bit and then he'd have to run out because his feet would hurt, and I could take it a little bit longer, but not much longer, and so I was always running in and running out, and he has the camera too, so he doesn't want to get the camera wet, and he had all of his clothes on, so he didn't want to get drenched. So, we couldn't get the shots as well as we would like them, and I don't have equipment to go film stuff in the water. And this is just supposed to be very silly, like he's supposed to be like a little bit of a child, some sort of mollusk animal right there, running around, having fun, just prancing about, just really eating it up. And I was originally going to intersperse footage during this part of Dr. Willie coming and like traveling and trying, making his way to David, and it's supposed to like build up to sort of a crescendo, and you think Dr. Willie's gonna save David, but at the last moment David goes away and that's it. And so here we go. Also, I wish the waves were rougher because the waves weren't that rough that day. I wanted to have like a really rough day. This was filmed at a completely different place. You can see the ground was different. I tried to edit the colors and everything to make it better. And I dive under, and I tried to stay underwater the longest I could, the longest possible amount of time I could. But I'm not that good at breathing underwater, not breathing underwater, but holding my breath underwater. And it was really cold, so it was really painful. But, we're still able to hide me coming up and just show, that there's nothing out there. And that's all that really matters. As long as you get the shot, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You could have done it better, but it's a 2-hour movie. You're going to have a lot of shots that don't work. That's just the way it is. And this is the last line of the movie right here. A joke on Chinatown. Get it, Willie. It's Bo Madness. And, the character's supposed to be distraught and stuff. Originally it was just going to end there, but I wanted to make it a little bit more significant than that, and give it a little bit more power. So, we came up with the idea of me cutting my hair, and my hair right there, that's like a year's length of hair. And I didn't really care. I'm not like the guy who cares too much about his hair. I don't really take care of it. But originally I tried to cut it off like a samurai, like all of it, clump it up, cut it all off. But the knife wasn't sharp enough, and I guess my hair is really sort of like tougher than I imagined. So it was hard to cut that bit, and it kind of hurt. So it was supposed to be like that would have made it more symbolic, and he's like, he's masterless samurai, and he's getting rid of his hair as to, like a tribute to David, to show that like he's changed and the world's changed, and a part of him died too. But instead, it's the same thing. It's just not as good looking or whatever. And right here we have David Rhodes and Willie in their headbands, because they both slowly become closer and closer looking to each other. They do that. That was from an ending. Originally there was multiple endings. And that's it really. That's the end of Boat Madness. I end it with this quote, all that it takes for good men, for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. That is just to try to, it ends on a really serious note, and to sort of bring it back to the silliness, I guess, in a way. But yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for listening and watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. It took me a very long time to edit, to make all the music, to figure it all out, to act, to find the places, to all the things. I want to thank everyone who helped me, all the people who acted, Joey, Omar, Dan, Ryan, Marcus, and my dog. And yeah, that's about it. If you like, I hope you liked it. If you're willing to watch this stuff, I'm sure you did like it. It really took a lot from me, so thank you, and have a good one. This is Rory Evans Affair, signing out. Peace.